Chuck Zukowski is a UFO paranormal field investigator. He's been researching and field investigating the unknown for more than 30 years. And as an investigator, he's appeared on radio and television shows discussing his findings, and currently has his own TV show on the Travel Channel called Alien Highway. Chuck approaches every investigation from a skeptical point of view, looking for any known possibility before offering any solution. He's currently also Deputy Director of Animal Mutilation Investigations for MUFON International. He joins us now. Hello, Chuck.
Hey, thank you very much, Dean, for having me on I guess it's your show?
Well, we're doing an online summit at the moment. We've got a great field of speakers who have been assembled and presenting over the next couple of days, and on all sorts of subjects. And I thought field investigation, I guess, doesn't get talked about a lot within this sphere, and I thought you would be one of the main men to come and talk to us about that. So I guess the first question is, does a background in law enforcement help you when you go out and look at a case and examine all the evidence?
You know, it has helped me. I've been doing UFO investigations, film investigations for about 30 years. And so I was doing film investigations before I was a deputy. Yeah, about 15 years or so worth. So actually, being a deputy, believe it or not, when I was a deputy, okay, so yes and no to your questions. Yes, since I was a deputy, I've learned a lot from law enforcement that helps my future investigations. But being a field investigator actually helped me as a deputy when I was dealing with the public. And one of the reasons, obviously, is because I talk with a lot of people, and so I have that, that I don't know, I want to call it a sixth sense or whatever, but I could talk to people and understand what they're trying to tell me, or what they're trying to hide, or what they're afraid to tell me. And so that's really helped me, as a deputy, when I was a deputy. But since then, a lot of things I learned as a deputy has also helped me as a field investigator. Not only some other things that I learned, interviewing skills, when you're talking to someone and they can basically tell when they're lying, or when they're not telling the whole truth, or looking for evidence, different types of evidence. So it was kind of like a handshake type of thing. The field investigative work that I'd done previously helped me being a deputy, and me being deputy helped me do it. So I learned a lot from both ends. So I feel really happy about that. It's really helped me along.
And does it help to have a dose of skepticism before going into a case?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that I've always tried to do before every case is going into a case non-biased. Okay, and you don't want to be biased, and I've seen so many investigators or people who call themselves investigators. Oh yeah, that was a UFO. No, that was a mothership. Oh, no, you got to go in non-biased, very analytically thinking. Now, my full-time job is I design microchips. I'm an IC mass design engineer, and I've been doing that just a couple of years less than the UFO stuff. Been doing that just a couple of years more. But the thing is when you design microchips and you deal with engineers, and you're very, you think very analytically. Mm-hmm. Well, I incorporate that into my investigations. Now, that also means that when I get the investigations, or I get sightings that come to my website, or people contact me, it's really easy for me then to decide, okay, which one am I going to do? Now, obviously, you can't do every investigation on every sighting you get, because there's just not enough hours in the day, and I still work full time, so I'm using my free time to run my investigations, and all my equipment I pay for myself. So there is no budget. It's just whatever the wife doesn't know I'm paying for. If she knew how much money I've invested in all this, she'd probably divorce me. I think she knows.
She'd probably start her own investigation.
But you have to go in thinking analytically. You have to go in and you have to eliminate everything that's possible and plausible first, before you start looking at what's not possible from, based on the paranormal, what's not normal. So, lights in the sky. Lights in the sky are really, really hard to do now, because, we have just so many satellites up in there, and so many other things that we don't know about that other countries and our countries putting up there. There was a experimental shuttle that NASA had to just, well, actually NASA / government, that just came back down, that just landed. So um, there's a lot of things out there. So it's really, really hard to do lights in the sky without the lights in the sky being very unique, like,
Hmm.
the way they move and circling, and, was there communication with the witness. And so that's a little tough, but that makes it easier though when you have some type of evidence like that. Uh, Craft sightings are really good, and then depending on trajectories and other things too, along with creature sightings. So it's really easy for me to go through my cases and say, okay, I'm gonna talk and attack that one. I'm gonna talk and about this one, and we'll see about setting that up for later. But the main thing is when you go into these, the first thing you got to do is you have to eliminate, like I said, everything that's possible. So when I go into something, first thing I say, could have been this, could have been this. Now, where the where the law enforcement training came in, and it's really it's sad, but now I've learned because of that, and since then, the first thing you say is when you talk to someone is, what type of medication were you on any type of
Okay.
medication when you had the sighting? Were you drinking? Were you smoking pot? What were you doing? And it's unfortunate to ask those questions, but trust me, you'd be surprised how many people were smoking pot, or how many people were drinking alcohol when they saw it. Now, I'm not saying that if you're smoking pot or drinking alcohol that yet you didn't see what you saw, but it makes it a lot harder to verify the case when that's there. So it makes it more difficult to validify it, especially if people find out, hey, that witness said he was high on grass and saw it, and you're trying to make a case out of it. So unfortunately, those don't work. You just got to throw those out, and they're really good cases, but you lose the validity depending on the situation of the person
Hmm.
and what you're doing at the time. But that was the cop in me coming out.
Okay. So, are you able to close most of the cases that you investigate, or are there some that you just cannot prove one way or the other?
I wish I could close my investigations. To be honest with you, the reason why we can't close them is because the only way we could close them is to verify exactly what they saw, if it was ET or creature of some sort. So really, every investigation that a field investigator does, um, it's somewhat open, because that's why we're out there. We're trying to find the elusive evidence of what we're looking for, if it be Bigfoot or Mothman, or
Hmm.
the lights or orbs, and why they're really balls of light and crafts. And anyway, so that's kind of a tricky type of question. You can close them to the point where you get enough information that validates what the person witnessed or what the person saw, and that satisfies them. But then it doesn't really, you can't really close it. Like a homicide
Yeah.
case, I found that person who murdered that person, he's in jail, case closed. And that's like with animal mutilations. Animal mutilations are basically animal cruelty cases, and even though they're signified as an animal cruelty case meaning that law enforcement can't find any evidence that an animal committed that type of carnage on a cow or a horse or whatever. So it's got to be human. But there's no in between. All they have is A or B. So instead of leaving the case report open as an open case, they close it with animal cruelty, meaning I can't find evidence that a human did it. But gosh, it's got to be, because there's no evidence that a predator did it. So we leave it as animal cruelty. They try to close the cases, but I've talked to a few law enforcement agencies that have kind of left the animal mutilation cases open too. And so they become cold cases, just like cold case homicides too. So it's really interesting. Depends upon the department, depends upon the individual on how they handle this. So really, going back to your original question, every true UFO investigative case is really an open case or a cold case, because we can't point our finger on the evidence and say that's the
Yep.
person. See here, look. I got him, you know.
Hmm.
So you can close it just to a point.
Alien Highway is a little different than most UFO shows, and I think it's a great concept. It reminded me a lot of Bill Burns's old show, UFO Hunters, and so I think you did eight episodes in the first season. Um, how did that show come about?
Yeah, it's funny because I was actually on one of Bill Burns's shows, so episodes. It's funny
Yep.
that you mentioned him. It's interesting how that came around. You know, every now and then I'll get calls or emails from production companies, and you know, they're trying to pitch a show, or they have something, and you know, I was kind of toying with, do I want to do this or not? There's actually more to this story than that. What happened originally was, I signed a life rights contract with New Line Cinema and Warner Brothers over a book that was written about me called 37th Parallel for a movie.
Hmm.
And so it was a 3-year type of life rights contract. So within that 3 years, and I got so much press, it was all over the place about the 37th parallel, that I was getting emails and calls like every other week from production companies want to do something. But because I had signed a contract, I kind of wanted to keep that project separate than everything else. So I held off, and the contract expired at the beginning of last year. And so I said, okay, I'm going to start looking at people or production companies that contact me. And Rick Sasson from Three Ball Entertainment, actually, that's a parent company he's working for. Parabolic is the name of his company. He contacted me, and he had just left a production company that was working with Duck Dynasty. So I thought, well, you know, that's pretty good because, you know, and then he's also had a history with Paranormal State
Hmm.
and back in the day. So, you know, he's really up at the paranormal. We started talking over the phone. And what I liked about Rick is he basically said, Chuck, how would you do a TV show? And I said, simple, I would do a TV show like I do my investigations. I would want to portray it to the public. I would like to run it like I'm running an investigation so the public, the viewers can see it from, you know, the point of view is this is an investigation. This is how the investigations are run. I like, what I don't like is, you know, I don't particularly like, you know, the investigators that are sitting in the studio and they're talking about it. And then they have actors portray, you know, what happened,
Hmm.
and a lot of times they're not even, you know, they show old footage or something. I want to be boots on the ground, like a real field investigator, talk to the real people, real places, see their evidence, try and figure out what's going on, and hopefully, you know, that plays out well to the viewers. Uh, and we got a lot of really good responses from the show, from the 8 1-hour episodes. There was even a lot of things that happened in the episodes um, that really amazed me, that was out of the ordinary, and to the point where, being analytical, I was questioning the production company. I mean, there really was a case of one. There was one particular case where I was questioning production company whether or not they altered the evidence or messed with the evidence because it was so good.
Wow.
And and you know, and but you know, as a field investigator, you know, you've got to really be, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, leery or of everybody. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
everybody is a suspect. You know, and when I meet someone for the first time and they're telling me their story about what they saw or what they witnessed, the first thing I'm doing is I'm looking at their eyes, I'm looking at their facial, you know, their face, and what they're doing in their hand gestures, and I can tell right off whether or not they're leading me on or telling the truth. And I was playing that game with the production crew too, because I seriously thought that someone messed with evidence because it was so good, and they didn't. So it was kind of fun that the investigations that we set up for Alien Highway, we set up stuff that was happening now, or as close as we could get to happening now, to try and get the evidence we were looking for. Um, you can't do that all the time, unfortunately, because it's like a fireman saying, okay, you know, I'm going to do a show about, you know, houses that are on fire, but you just have to wait till there's a house on fire, you know, before. And that's
Yeah.
not how
Yeah.
production works.
Yeah.
But we got really lucky with Missouri. We went to a couple places in Missouri. We shot 2 different episodes in Missouri where there was activity. And then we shot an episode in Utah near the Skinwalker Ranch where there was activity, and in Sedona where there was activity. So these are some of the things that when I originally was talking to Rick, he says, where would you want to go? And so out of the 8 episodes, 7 of them were my idea. The 8th episode, or the one called the California or SoCal clusters, I don't investigate the craft coming out of the ocean on the West Coast because I live in Colorado.
Yep.
You know, and that's the bottom line of that. I mean, all I can do is read about it, and sure, I know about the different hotspots over there, but I've never been able to physically do, you know, an investigation. But all the other 7, I've been to those locations, and you know, I've done previous investigations, so I was able to bring something personal to the table.
Yep. The Skinwalkers episode was the one I really loved. I mean, it was fascinating. And I mean, did you come up with that the idea of the Skinwalker?
Well, yeah. Basically, I wanted to do the Skinwalker Ranch, and we couldn't get into the ranch, but I knew from talking with people that worked with MUFON and didn't work with MUFON that there was activity outside the Skinwalker. Now, I know, living out here in Colorado, that the San Luis Valley is very, very hot. It's not one specific spot. You know, it's just hot everywhere. You know, if it's you know, Alamosa, Crestone, Trinidad, you know, Weston, whatever, but it's all hot. So I knew that if the Skinwalker Ranch, like the Bradshaw Ranch, which we did in Arizona, it's just one spot that's been recognized as being hot, but it's hot everywhere. So the idea of going there, I don't need to get on the ranch. There's enough evidence from eyewitnesses saying there's a lot of stuff going on outside the ranch. The ranch may or may not be the focal point. I can tell you right now, I'm 50-50 on even whether or not the ranch is a focal point. I think there's a couple different focal points there. Yeah, the Skinwalker Ranch just happens to be one of the focal points. But there's so much activity there, I couldn't wait to get there, talk to the locals, and see what's going on, and we capture our own evidence. Now, the evidence that I was telling you earlier that I was questioning was from the Skinwalker Ranch. If anybody saw that episode, I have a Moultrie game cameras, and you know, they're a little bit higher end game cameras, and I've used those for Bigfoot investigations and cattle mutilations and stuff. But I had a couple of them set up out there in an area where an eyewitness had seen what he claims is a skinwalker. And so if you've watched this show, you think that it was manipulated, and it wasn't. But so you see the road, and it turns on, and you can see snow come down because we were in snow for like 2 months.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, a large coyote or a wolf just appears running on the road. And the first time I saw that, the first thing I thought was, okay, well, someone manipulated that in edit, because you know, that's just ridiculous. Because I know how game cameras work; they turn on from a motion sensing, and so I figured, okay, the snow turned on the camera. The camera was recording the snow, and someone superimposed a wolf running or a large coyote running over there, and that was the analytical side of me. Right when they're showing me this, and even on film, I'm kind of watching this. If you watch me, I'm kind of like, okay, what, you know, and my mind's going with this. After that, you know, after I saw that, I questioned them, and the response was, well, okay, you set the camera last night. We all drove 20 hours or 20 miles back to the hotel in the snow. You know, we came and got the camera this morning. The camera was in, you know, your truck. We pulled the SD card out a couple of minutes ago and showed you, 10, 15 minutes ago, and showed you the clip. And so I at that point I'm thinking, oh yeah, they didn't have access to it. I had access to it. Oh my God, I did it. You know.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh my God. And even now when I watch that episode, I question that. But even though I know that that's what we caught. But if you don't question things, and if you don't question yourself, you have to question yourself to make yourself a good investigator. Because once you get to the point where you become very relaxed in what you're doing, then unfortunately you might miss very good evidence, or you may not go to the area where, the evidence needs to be. The other thing was we were looking. They were looking for, okay, we need a finishing. We need to do a night investigation. For this particular episode, and they wanted to go to what we call Four Corners, that area where we captured the wolf for the coyote. That's where they wanted us to do our final night investigation, and I said no. Um, I, Based on my experience, we need to go to the cemetery because that's where two witnesses experienced a creature of some
Hmm.
sort. And then also, we actually picked up some EVPs there when we left the camera there. But the cemetery sits like here, Skinwalker sits here, and over here is the four corner, or like, not what I call it. It's actually crossroads. My
Right.
apologies. We call it the crossroads. And so if something was going to go from the crossroads through the cemetery to the Skinwalker, the cemetery seems like it's the best spot because we couldn't get in the cemetery, or we couldn't get from the cemetery to the Skinwalker. But just over the hill was the Skinwalker Ranch, and then the hill next to the cemetery they called UFO Hill. So anyway, we fought and fought, with the directors. I had two directors. I had a showrunner and a director. And I'm fighting with them the whole day, going, no, we don't. Let's not go there. And they go, well, fine. You're the investigator. Fine. It's your show. We'll go there. But we told you so, and we knocked it out of the park because we had that last scene. There was something that came up on us that was on four legs, although we didn't know it. My son Daniel was up on a hill looking down at us when we're running our investigations in the cemetery, and he's using my night vision binoculars, and he could see a dark mass kind of going towards us, and he told me that. Now, he's using $800 night owl binoculars. The guy beside him using a $70,000 red camera.
Wow. Wow.
And so when he shot that area, and really he was kind of looking to see where we were, but he wasn't focusing his eyes, or else he would have saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where there's one little scene where it looked like there was some kind of a four-legged creature coming towards us.
Wow.
And we picked up the growls, and then we had the lights in the sky. Now, where we were looking, just on the other side of UFO Hill, the Skinwalker Ranch was just a mile on the other side, and that whole area just lit up. Now, if you've been out that way, and you've investigated before, you would know that there's a lot of oil fields, and sometimes you'll get methane pockets, and they'll burn off the methane pockets to get to the crude oil. And so the first thing I'm looking at is, that's got to be a methane pocket they're burning, because that's what that glow is they're burning the methane. And I go, but that's really close. That's over by the Skinwalker Ranch, and we were near the ranch, a day before, and even the 2 days before, and there was no drilling in that area. We actually went up to the front gate, but we didn't go in there. I just wanted to see what it looked like. And then I saw the white beam coming up through the center of the glow. So you have the glow, then you have this white beam coming up. And I'm going, yeah, there's no way in hell that's methane being burned off, because why is that white beam in the middle? And all of a sudden I'm going, it's a true anomaly. And so we were able to capture, we captured something coming up on us. We captured that, and we captured, the EVP or the growls on audio too. So it turned out to be a really, really good ending of a really good episode.
It was.
Because I was fighting with the directors. I said, look, I'm the investigator for some reason. I don't know why. I can't tell you why. I just knew that would be the place I would go. If I only had one night left in this area to finish my investigation, I would finish it there. And I think it's more, I don't want to say intuition. I think it's just based on experience, because I've been doing it so long that just seems like that would have been the perfect place, and it turned out it was.
Yep. And people watching today, do yourself a favor. You can probably watch the episode on your on-demand service through your satellite or cable, and season 1, episode 1, Alien Highway, I think it was, Skinwalkers.
Yeah, I was really enjoyed that one. It's funny because I'm sitting at home with my family watching these things on TV, and it's like I'm watching home movies.
Skinwalkers. Well, let's quickly move to animal mutilations. I've followed Linda Moulton Howe's work for a long time, and on animal mutilations, and just love her investigation. So it's something you've also taken on. And it's probably a topic that probably turns off a lot of people that have got a love for UFOs. It's not something a lot of people actually want anything to do with. Why is that?
Well, not only that, but there's not a lot of people that actually want to do it.
It's not sexy enough, I guess.
Well, it's not sexy enough, but it's really intriguing. It's out of all my investigations. Okay, well, out of all my investigations, ghosts are the ones that scare me the most. I just did a ghost investigation the weekend before Halloween with my daughter in a cemetery, and we picked up some EVPs, and I picked up off in a distance like a scream, like somebody was screaming.
Wow.
Really cool stuff. And it scares me, but I have no problem tracking Bigfoot and looking for aliens, but ghosts,
Yeah,
for whatever reason. Now, the cattle mutilations, when you do a cattle mutilation investigation, the first thing you have to remember at all times is we really don't know how this animal was killed. And until we know that it falls, and I've done enough of these now that I know that if it falls within the cattle mutilation phenomenon, that there's really not a lot of danger to you or to your team when investigating cattle mutilations. But when you're coming up on an animal death, you really don't know how it died. Anthrax or hit by a train, right? Amtrak, anthrax or some type of viral, something that you could actually contract yourself and take it back home to your family. So I do things differently than other investigators. There was one cattle mutilation investigator that was taking his dog, and he said, "Well, my dog was helping me find evidence." Well, but if your dog gets in and gets into the animal and contracts whatever killed that animal or catches whatever, then you take that dog home and not only put the dog's life at risk, you put everybody's life at risk at home. So it's really hard to control an animal. Unlike a human, where I can tell the people with me on my team, stay so many feet away from that. Make sure you wear rubber gloves. Make sure you wear whatever. Don't be touching that. And the reason is because there's been some cases where the ranchers themselves had touched the animal, and they would lose the feeling in their hand, and it'd be real tingly. So I know that there's something on those animals. Now that's the paranormal side. Now, if it was non-paranormal and it died of viral infections, and they touched it, then they contracted, or they could have. Now, I did an investigation last year where there was a horse that wasn't mutilated, but it was found dead, and the rancher swears that the horse was pregnant. But when there was a necropsy done on the horse, the veterinarian didn't find a fetus, or didn't find an infant, or whatever they call them. So there's a question there is, did he think that the horse, was pregnant, because the vet says that they showed no signs of being pregnant. But then I go back to my abduction cases, and I've worked some abduction cases where women were pregnant, and they were known to be pregnant from the doctor, and then they didn't have abortion, but they lost they lost the baby, and it would just wake up one morning and it's gone. And I had a couple of cases out here in Colorado. Really, really hard to do abduction cases and stuff like that, because it's you're dealing with humans and human emotions. So you use your experience and like, okay, well, this guy's been around animals, so I'm just going to judge. I'm going to trust his judgment that the animal was pregnant. I'm going to base that on all my other investigations where vets have been wrong before because of the UFO phenomenon. And the more I pursued that, he lost a couple more animals under unusual circumstances. There was a case earlier last year where, earlier last year, where it was a bona fide animal mutilation with the strange cuts in the area. And then animals were dying, other species were dying too. Horses and goats and pigs and cows. And so it was all happening at once. And now I'm thinking, oh my God, did I jump into something that could be viral that's jumping species? And that was an episode also on Alien Highway, in which one of the witnesses actually witnessed a helicopter airlifting a dead elk out. Now, not during hunting season, but even during hunting season, unless you're like, really wealthy that you airlift, your kills out
Yep.
with a
Be
helicopter
nice.
within the area where animals were found dead.
The one thing I've always wondered about are animal mutilations. Do people see UFO activity before and after the mutilations?
Yeah, they actually do. Um, a lot of times, and it's really funny too when I talk to people that had cases of strange animal deaths or mutilations. I always say, well, I hate to ask you this question, but I have to ask you: have you seen any strange lights in the area before or anything afterwards? Generally, it's always before because I'm talking to them within a couple of days of the mutilation. And I'll tell you about 3/4 of the time they see, strange lights, balls of light, either in the pasture or, in the sky or something. Now, the one thing that I love, I know that your viewers out there going, well, that could be this or that could be that, but and that's true. But when you're talking to ranchers that live in very rural areas, they know the area. They're used to looking at the stars. They're used to looking at the environment. So anything that looks out of place, they really notice pretty quickly
Mm-hmm.
because they're out there way early in the morning before the sun rises, and a lot of times they're out there at night too, working outside. So they're very, very in tune to their environment. So it's really, really like a law enforcement, you know.
Yep.
Cops are usually, they know their district and then they switch from districts to districts, but they really know their areas and they really know the type of people and who they have to deal with from time to time. Same thing with ranchers. So they see balls of light. Now, I've had a couple of ranchers that actually saw a solid craft looking type UFO, but most of the time the balls of light is what they see. And what's interesting about the balls of light, now I've been investigating that for a few years now, and they go way, way back to, well, you can go way back to the, World War II, where they were called the Foo Fighters.
Yep.
I'm not saying that's where the band got the name from. They say they just made up the name, but how can you make up something that was talked heavily about during the 40s? And the Foo Fighters were basically, I think the name came from a comic book. If you're a foo, you're a fighter or something. But uh, these balls of light were following our fighters and following our bombers, and they were also following the Japanese fighters and bombers. We thought it was Japanese technology. Japanese thought it was our technology. As it turns out, it was somebody else's technology.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even works of art, if you go way, way back, that shows balls, these like balls of light in the paintings and interesting stuff. Now, whether or not the artist was depicting on what people said they saw, it depends on what program you watch on TV saying yes they did, no they didn't. But it's just kind of interesting that the artist would draw these balls of light in the sky on his painting. So we don't know how far back they go. Now, when you talk to Native Americans, and I've been really lucky living in the Four Corners region to be able to do that, it's no big deal to them. It's something that generations within their tribes have seen, and that's the Utes and that's the Navajo and the Apaches that we've talked to.
That would just about be the hottest of the hot spots in the country, wouldn't it? The Four Corners.
Yeah, but really, it's hot everywhere. It really is. The thing with the 37th parallel, my theory based on the 37th degree latitude theory was, we have multiple highways across the United States that we travel, like I-70 and there's, I-40, and then even, Highway 66 or whatever. But UFOs have a tendency of traveling, from what I've seen, majority of them have a tendency of traveling east to west. If they're going north to south, but when they bug out for whatever reason, it seems like they dart off either towards the east or to the west. And so I started looking at that theory back then and noticed that my animals, every one of the cattle mutilations that I've investigated, the animal carcass was facing east and west. And then even when you have multiple animal deaths at one time, they're all facing the same direction and they're all laying on the same side, if it be their left side or the right side. Very, very interesting stuff. Once you start doing more and more of these, you start seeing a pattern.
Yeah.
And some of them are actually laying in a 16 to 22 foot, I don't want to say crop circle, we'll just say ground depression. And the ground depression, when I had the soil analyzed inside the ground depression compared to outside the ground depression, the nutrients inside the ground depression have been changed, and the soil is less soluble. So some type of energy source physically changed the nutrients or changed the soil, and that's been true with every case that I ran soil analysis out here in Colorado, and it actually compared with soil analysis out of Kansas City, Missouri, and then out of Georgia also. Even though we have 3 different states, 3 different soil types, but yet we ended up with the same type of analysis. But the majority of the time, people see these balls of light beforehand. It could be, a couple months, could be a month before, could be a week before. And then sometimes afterwards, I get reports that they see unmarked helicopters flying over the areas where the animals were mutilated. Now, I've heard all kinds of rumors in the past. Well, it's the military doing it, the government's doing it. I even had someone tell me, oh, it's special forces doing it. It's when they can successfully mutilate a cow, then they can graduate from the special forces. I just felt like taking that guy and just popping him one in the face, for hopefully I would knock some sense into him, because obviously he had no sense at all. Because animal mutilations has been going on since 1967 with the first case of Snippy the horse, which was really, her name was Lady. We've had over 10,000 cases in the United States alone. And out of the 10,000 cases that were investigated by law enforcement, they never found a culprit. They never could pin anything to a predator or to humans, so it's been an open case. So theoretically, this is probably the largest, if not the largest, animal cruelty case, if not in the world, at least in the United States. Now, you can go back further and find some information of animal mutilations back in the late 1800s out of Missouri. I actually found an article in one of the older magazines that talked about a mutilation case, and where the ranchers actually, they saw this UFO craft hovering over the ranch, and they ran in the house and they thought, that's it, we're all going to die, and they hid in there. And then the next day, the father comes out, with a shotgun, and he finds, I think, 3 of his cows dead, and void of blood. So it's not anything new. Now, if you talk to the Native Americans, they've talked about animal mutilations that they've seen in the past. They don't like talking about them because depending on the tribe, that could relate to, a shapeshifter or skinwalker or something like that. So it's really hard to get information out of them, but they will tell you. I mean, I got a really great opportunity during the skinwalker episode to talk to a Ute elder. And unfortunately, his interview didn't make the show. But what I did learn from the Ute tribe, and I learned off camera, and he wouldn't verify it on camera. The Ute tribe has got, of course, we all know they have a name for Bigfoot. Sasquatch is not their name; they have a separate name for it. But Sasquatch is an Indian name for it. They also have a name for UFOs, and a lot of tribes do, and they call them, their name for storm travelers or sky people or something. That's our, our definition of their name. But the Ute tribe actually has a name for gray aliens.
Oh.
And when I got him talking about that, and then when he realized he was talking about it, he stopped. He says, I can't say that on camera. I can't say that. So I can't say that. I said, well, okay, but I understand he can't put himself out there. So there's certain things that they don't like to talk about, but my gosh, they have a name for a gray alien, and that's in their culture. It's not anything new. It's not, and they've been around way before, the Europeans migrated to North America. So, so much for our military and our government doing it, unless George Washington was crossing the Delaware with a mutilated animal in his boat, Yeah, you never know.
No, you don't. Chuck, I could keep chatting for hours here, but we've just about got time up here. But I just wanted to quickly get a response from you on the disclosure topic, because you feel like the whole topic of UFOs and disclosure is just bubbling at the moment. With the New York Times article a couple of years ago, with the release of the naval footage not long ago. If it happens, What do you think the world would look like post-disclosure?
Well, it's really interesting because I've been doing this for 30 years, and it seems like every 8 years or so, you get this whole disclosure thing. It's like the guy in the corner is holding up, the sign says Jesus is coming. I'm going, when? You've been holding that sign since the 60s, for God's sakes, But time is irrelevant. But the thing is now, because of technology, everybody's got a cell phone, which they have the capability of shooting video, audio, photos. And so we're getting a lot more evidence coming in through cell phones, because before, our evidence was, people on vacation. They just happen to have the 8mm camera, or they have a, box camera or something. But now everybody's got it, so they see something and, off they go. Of course, we got the people out there faking evidence. But the thing is I think what's happening now is more and more people in the public are being more aware that there's other things, that something's going on out there, because it's just too hard to uh, to put under the carpet like they used to do. There was a National Disinformation Act years ago where, the government was not allowed to lie to the American people, but if they told them a little tiny bit of truth, then they could tell them a lot of untruth and get away with not violating any policies there. But the bottom line is we got more people out there now that are experiencing this, so there's a lot more communication now that we have, the internet. It's really easy for people to communicate in other countries, go back and forth with all the social media programs we have now. So it's really, really hard to to keep people from talking. Before, we didn't have that, right? Everything was done by mail. For people out there watching this, remember mail, the little postcard?
Yep.
Back in the day. So,
Barely.
communications are faster now. What I liked about what happened a couple of years ago was, the Pentagon came out saying that, they're funding so many $1 million. I forgot what it was, 22, 28 million. And all of it was going to Bigelow, basically. Now, I had a run-in with Bigelow a couple of years before, and I knew that Bigelow was working for someone in the government. I thought the CIA, because I knew he was getting money from a government entity and then putting it into MUFON for their STAR program. I knew it wasn't coming out because we saw evidence, and I saw evidence. And so in the book, The 37th Parallel, that came out in 2016, we talk about that. So, talk about Bigelow and then even at the very end of the book, for the people, and you can probably find it for $1.50 now, The 37th Parallel, but at the very end of the book, a lot of people don't like the ending because there's a lot of blacked out, stuff. There's stuff that's lined out. And the reason is, if you read between the lines, it points to Bigelow being involved in this and all the different things.
Right.
But it was my way and the writer's way of trying to get the information out to the public that there's something going on, and Bigelow's in bed with the government, and the government knows about it, but without basically saying it was Bigelow, so he wouldn't get sued. That's how we kind of did it. But I think it's really cool. More and more people are talking about it, and now you have the pilots themselves, the fighter pilots themselves, that are coming out and saying, yeah, we saw this. Yeah, we don't know. And then just very recently, was it the Navy? They finally came out and said that, oh yeah, by the way, those Tic Tac videos, yeah, we don't know what that was.
Yeah. It's not tinfoil hat topic anymore, is it? It's, I was reading today in the UK, more people believe in UFOs than they do in God.
Well, I didn't realize that.
It's amazing.
But then again, too, you can have it both ways. The aliens could have the same God. We don't know. But the thing is I think it's a touchy subject for some people, and for whatever reason, they seem to think that that once we say life does exist, intelligent life exists.
We're talking the religious communities.
Yeah, well, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with the religious communities having problems, because I think that a lot of them have been so far off base anyway. They need to really, step up to the 21st century. And I know the latest Pope is trying to do that.
Mm-hmm.
now, letting priests marry and stuff. So it's a slow thing. It's really hard to keep, to have people that have a certain habit, and I don't mean
Yeah.
none, but a
Yep.
certain habit, and then try to get them out of that habit. But when you have the younger generation, and that's what Catholicism, or at least the Catholic Church, is saying recently, that they're losing, the younger generation, and they're afraid that the religion is going to die out because the younger generation. Well, the younger generation is saying, uh, we just don't understand your methodologies anymore because we're seeing this, we're experiencing this, and you're saying it's not true, or you're not. But people have investigated, the Roman Catholic Church, or the Vatican. I know. I mean, there's information in the Vatican. I mean, the Vatican itself, they had their own UFO investigator for years. I forget his name, but you can look it up. And then even the nuns were helping to chart stars back in the day, and write a
Well,
book. So,
they have their own telescope, for goodness sakes.
oh yeah, yeah. So they know what's going on. So but I think what's happening with the disclosure now is it's like a rock rolling down the hill. It's starting to pick up speed now,
Yep.
and it's kind of interesting to see where it's going to go, and what's going to happen. Now, I was really happy to be with Travel Channel, getting more information out. But for some reason, some of these channels seem to think the ghost investigation shows are far more exciting than UFOs. And in my opinion, I know there's life after death. I don't have a problem with that. Um, but life outside our planet,
Yeah.
and that's a game changer for us. For how we perceive things in the future, and what we do with our technology. Unfortunately, we are a very warlike planet, and we've been using our advanced technology for battle rather than for travel. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it's been. Even back in the 1500s with Copernicus, you couldn't say that the Earth wasn't the center of our solar system, or else you get beheaded.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but now we have this information highway coming out, and it's really exciting. I was really excited when the report just came out a couple of weeks ago, saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, those Tic Tacs, we didn't know what they were." And I went, "What? The military's actually saying that?" I'm going,
Yeah.
okay. Now, I do have a couple of, if you watch the show, there are a couple of government informants. I just picked up another one, and I don't know if I can use them now because I don't have a show, but people within the government that are trying to release information to the public. And so they'll go to certain people, and I have no idea who these people are. They just call my phone, and there's no, the return, I'll be honest with you, the return call one time was my own phone number, which is,
Wow.
and it's really easy to do.
Wow.
Anybody can get that technology to do, but
Yeah.
that's how it plays out. And so there's information they're trying to get out. So there's this battle going on within the government within.
Yeah.
One trying to hold the information, and one trying to get the information out to the public. And the information has been coming out in public, so I'm really, really excited about what's going on. I can't wait for the next release of something that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. It is an exciting time. Chuck, been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and we've just gone a little over, but that's great. And I'd love to get you on again sometime. We'll follow your progress and see where you head next. And let's hope Alien Highway or another show comes your way very shortly.
Hopefully I'll be in the news going up in the craft.
There he goes.
Waving to everybody.
Bye. Chuck, thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Well, thank you, and thank you very much for having me.
Chuck Zukowski joining us on the program.